Welcome to a new video in my home automation series. I make a fair amount of content on Sonoff, and especially in that also talk about the iHost. And I tend to get these questions like how I use the iHost if I have this particular scenario, or is this a good choice if I want to do I want to solve a particular need. So I thought I'm going to summarize what the iHost is, especially in the Sonoff and the EV-Link ecosystem. So probably it would be easier for you to understand how it fits into your needs, whether this is something that makes sense for you to extend your existing Sonoff systems, or if you want to start in something completely new, then should you start with an iHost or should you start with something else? So that's what the video is going to be about. I'm going to talk about some of the basics in the beginning, but there is a very good landscape drawing that Sonoff has done on the on the whole ecosystem and how iHost fits in this ecosystem. So I think that's what I'm going to talk most about in this video. So let's start with the first one. And just in case you are completely new to the Sonoff ecosystem, just a couple of things that I want to summarize. So more of the products that they are selling, it's branded as Sonoff. So this is smart on and off. So this is how the Sonoff name became as a brand. The company behind this, who are doing the development of the various devices, are called the IT'd. So you will see that most of the links I provided in the video description is called the it.cc. So that's where they are selling the products. And the cloud products and the cloud functionality is branded under the EV-Link application. So that's the name of either the Android or an iOS application that you download. And that will allow you to control all their devices that existed from the very beginning to now. And those are the Wi-Fi devices and those that communicate over the cloud. So that's their cloud offering. And this is how iHost is sort of like a complementary offer, which provides all the local control, but also it offers very similar functionalities that we have seen in the EV-Link application. So again, let's look at what this iHost is. So this is a local controller. As I said, the EV-Link, everything that you do in the EV-Link application is actually executed in the cloud. So now iHost sits in your home, and then it can talk to all your devices locally, and it implements everything locally. It is still part of the Sonoff ecosystem, so it works with Sonoff devices. You build your smart home system with Sonoff devices with iHost, so there is no real difference there. Probably the only exception is that it also has a Zigbee hub, which allows you to integrate radio-controlled Zigbee devices in your home, and that's where this ecosystem lock-in breaks a little bit, because with Zigbee you can connect a lot of third-party devices as well, light switches, light bulbs, and various sensors. Not all of them are working, but the general rule of thumb is that if there is a Sonoff, let's say, light bulb or light switch or temperature sensor, most probably the very similar model from other sensors like light bulbs, light switches, temperature sensors are going to work. But there is an expanded support for other type of sensors, so the list is growing all the time. The iHost can also control your existing Wi-Fi devices. Again, there is a caveat here, not all of the devices are supported, but that list is growing all the time. And not all of the devices are supported with all the functionalities. For example, at the moment, you can have devices which measure power consumption, but you can control them from iHost, but you can't see the power consumption data. Or for example, they have a light switch which can also operate in a blind motor mode, and that blind motor mode for some reason is not yet supported in iHost. So there are these examples. The iHost still has their own management for scenes or automations where you can set up simple logic, like if this happens, this is what the iHost should do. Like the temperature reaches a certain value, it should turn on devices, something like that. It also has the same home security feature that we have seen in the EV-Link application. So you can dedicate devices that are, let's say, motion sensors, door sensors, and if they open, they can activate an alarm, which is like notification on your home, or it triggers some other actions that you want to do around your house. There is dashboard functionality in the iHost, so you can create your own dashboards with icons and graphs. And of course, these dashboards are interactive, so you can click on the tiles, you can switch lights on, you can move, let's say you can move blinds, you can do, you know, whatever you want with those devices in these dashboards. The big difference, well, the big, let's say, advantage for me, which I do like, is that it has a lot of extensibility. So there are a set of Docker images or images that are supported by IT, and that's how they integrate some of the other devices into the iHost. I'm going to talk about that a little bit later on when we come to the landscape drawing. So that's a lot of options for you to extend the basic functionality of the iHost. There is an easy web interface, so it doesn't have a mobile app, so the iHost is not visible in the EV-Link application. You just go into the browser and you do all the configuration system settings in a very simple browser screen. So this is not your Home Assistant server, so this is something completely separate. If you want Home Assistant, there you have to do a Home Assistant server. Maybe there is going to be an option to load Home Assistant onto the iHost, but that's not available yet. As I said, it's not going to work with everything. It works with a lot of things, but that's not everything. And in many cases, this is very much like parallel to your current EV-Link world, because there you will still have the EV-Link application. You can still control devices over EV-Link. There are going to be devices that are only going to be EV-Link, especially some really old devices or very new devices, which is not yet supported in the iHost. And equally, there is going to be some devices, for example, Zigbee devices, which only going to be available in the iHost, but not in the EV-Link application. So there is a lot of confusion over here, and that's why I thought I might be able to clear some of this in this video. Controlled by Sonoff. So as I said, this is still part of the Sonoff ecosystem. The program which is running on the iHost, the updates and everything, is what Sonoff provides to you. So there is a set of functionalities that you can use, and that's the only thing that you can use, at least at the moment. And as I said, there is no companion app for the Sonoff iHost. Because I talk a lot about, like, you know, what is local and what is cloud, I just wanted to quickly summarize these different distinctions. And I've also mentioned a couple of examples here. And I think we are going to see that these distinctions between cloud, local and hybrid are not that clear anymore. There is, you know, a movement between these, and every single vendor tries to be a little bit more flexible by offering some local and cloud functionality. So we have systems that are cloud-based, and I think this is probably the most of the systems or the most of the smart home products or smart products that you have seen, which is typically you buy a device and then you configure that device on your to connect to your Wi-Fi network, and then it comes with an app, and that app communicates with the device. So this could be your smart locks, smart lights, smart whatever in your house. And every single vendor has a cloud service, a cloud application, and in most cases, these applications don't really talk to each other. That's how cloud works. And of course, many vendors try to offer some additional functions, some local functions. So EV-Link from Sonoff is cloud-based, but it also has some functionalities. Let's say if your internet goes down and you are home, the EV-Link application can still work and provide communication with your devices locally. I also mentioned Google Home and SmartThings here, but again, Google Home is now also offers some local control. There is a big push, well, not only in Google, but the other voice vendors as well, is to implement the voice recognition on the device, so it doesn't have to send your voice to the cloud in order to understand what you are saying. And also, once the device understands what you are saying, it can control the devices locally. So again, it's starting to look like more like a hybrid system. Local system is something that you have your device and your logic at home, you install it like the iHost or let's say Home Assistant, and even if you lose complete connection to the internet, all your functionality is going to work because all your logic is at home. It has obviously advantages, but it also has disadvantages. For example, controlling your system from outside when you leave your Wi-Fi network is not straightforward, and there are different solutions from each of these vendors and systems, how they achieve this. And of course there is a hybrid system, which is the mix of two. I already mentioned the Google Home and Alexa starting to feel like a hybrid system. I think Apple is definitely hybrid because it's tried to do most of the control locally, but it also allows you to create, to connect to the cloud, and that's how you access the system when you are not at home. I already mentioned that some has advantages and disadvantages for cloud versus local. So I think it is easy to start with cloud first because you only have to buy a device and connect it to your Wi-Fi. You don't need an additional device that you have to plug in. Maybe you have to configure a router. So there could be a lot of other things that you might want to do to fine-tune your system. But with a cloud, it's setup is very easy. It's very easy to start with. The control and the complexity is obviously with the cloud, you have a set of functions that the vendor provides you, and that's the only thing that you can do. With the local control, obviously you probably have a set of functionalities with the server that you have, but it probably provides a lot more integration where you can create your own logic, you can fine tune it, you can create additional functionality. And this is why I like the iHost, because it has this sort of like built-in or provided integration with Node-RED. So if you find that there is something which you can't find in iHost, you can implement the functionality in Node-RED. Of course, it's not straightforward because it's a different system that you have to learn, but the functionality is there. The big push for local control is obviously speed and latency, because you're not relying on the cloud. So once you have the logic inside, you can talk to your devices directly on your local network, which is definitely going to be much faster than the cloud. Although in some functions, you don't really see that latency. So that difference is debatable whether it's required at every single scenario. No internet connection is obviously a big pro for local because, everything is on your local network. If you have unreliable internet, or you are in an off-grid scenario where you don't necessarily have continuous internet connection, then everything is going to work if you have local control. And probably the last, which I wanted to mention, that I think we have seen a couple of cases in the past when either bigger companies go bust, and if they are a cloud-only solution, then once those cloud servers are turned off, your smart device is not really smart anymore. And of course, then all your investment that you have put into your smart device probably goes to waste. Maybe you will be lucky and there is going to be some, I think we have seen in the past that there would be like a community offering where they provide some sort of functionality or local control or integration. And you have to decide yourself whether you are willing to live with this risk or not. It definitely depends on how much money you have sunk into the system. And with this, we reached that infamous diagram that I was talking to you in the beginning of this video. So let me talk you through, because I think this is a really good representation of how this whole system with the iHost and all of the other EV-Link or Sonoff products and services look like. So in the middle, we have the iHost, and you can see this blue box here, which says that's the realm of the local control. Everything that the device can control locally, and some of the other devices that you can control locally as well. So in the middle, well, as I said, we have the iHost. And then because the iHost is a Zigbee hub as well, it has all these Zigbee devices that it can also control. You see the Zigbee logo here, but then you also see this Wi-Fi logo here. So that's what the EV-Link integration allows you. So it can take control over the devices that you have in the EV-Link account and then control them locally. As I said, there is a caveat. It doesn't support all the devices. It supports most of the devices. And at the end of this presentation, I'm going to show you a page where you can find all this information. There is a really good page where it summarizes everything. So it has Zigbee, it has all the Wi-Fi devices through this EV-Link app integration, and then it also has Bluetooth devices. So you can connect at the moment like speakers and some of the Bluetooth controllable devices like the S-Mate, the R5 directly to the iHost. Also, there is an integration, or this is one of the Docker images. So one Docker image is this EV-Link application integration. The other Docker image is this NSPanel Pro integration. This is specific for the NSPanel Pro, and it only works with the NSPanel Pro. It doesn't work with the other Zigbee hubs like the Zigbee Ultra. That it can sync the Wi-Fi devices that are connected to the NSPanel Pro over to the iHost, so you can control those as well. So again, that's important. But also probably what is important from this picture is that these Zigbee devices are not visible in the EV-Link again. So that's one big thing, or one big consideration that you have to take, is that if you already have a couple of Zigbee devices that are linked to, let's say, a Zigbee Ultra, and they are visible in your EV-Link application, they are not going to be visible on the iHost, and they are not going to be controllable. The only way it is going to be controllable if they happen to be linked to the NSPanel Pro. So it's a big or not. So this is certainly a restriction, especially now that the Zigbee Ultra is a fairly new product, and it is marketed that it's an Ultra. It is designed to control a lot of Zigbee devices, but with those Zigbee devices, then you will be linked to the EV-Link application and not to the iHost, unfortunately. I mean, this is how it's designed. So if this is why it becomes I think sort of bigger, well, probably the biggest decision point with the iHost is that if you are sort of dedicated to use the iHost, then it makes sense to use the iHost as your Zigbee hub. So it can control all your devices. It has, it sees all your devices, but then it means that they are not going to be visible in the EV-Link application if you plan to use the if you still plan to use the EV-Link application. So I think it's a balancing act. And talking about all these Dockers and integration points, so EV-Link app, the NSPanel Pro, there is a Tailscale application, which is, again, it's important to understand there is no app for the iHost. The EV-Link, the iHost will not be visible in your EV-Link application. There is no way to access the iHost when you are not at home, because as I said, there is no application, there is only a website, and that website is only available locally. So you can do all sorts of shenanigans to open up your iHost on your router and map it, which is definitely not secure and it's not recommended. So the recommended option is this Tailscale integration, which is basically like a VPN, which is very secure. So that's probably the best thing. Again, it takes effort to set it up. I haven't used it, to be honest, so I don't know how much extra effort it takes on your phone to connect to the VPN when you are away from home. So again, I would probably recommend that you design, if you want to use the iHost, you try to design it that you will be mostly interacting with it at home, and when you are not at home, then you would rely on the automations in order to do the things that you need, and not switching things on and off remotely from your phone. I think that would be my best recommendation. But of course, there is always a but, because there are ways to go around it. And these sort of like workarounds are pretty much this lower half of the screen, because we also have another integration, another Docker image on the iHost, which is the home bridge. So if you happen to have an iPhone and you are in the iPhone ecosystem, then you can use this home bridge integration in order to synchronize all your devices to your Apple Home app, which again is great, because then you can use your Apple Home app in order to interact with the iHost and the devices that are linked to the iHost when you are not at home. So you don't need a Tailscale, you don't need any other ways, because you can just use third-party app in third-party as of not part of Sonoff, and I mean in this case the Apple HomeKit. But okay, there is one more way to do, there is one more option to do, because the iHost also has a Matter bridge, which means that the devices that are visible in Matter, the devices that are visible on the iHost, again Zigbee, Wi-Fi, whatever, they can be shared to a Matter compatible network. So if you have, as you can see here, a Google Home or an Alexa, or, well, Apple is one option here, or SmartThings that has a Matter bridge, then you can connect the two systems together and the devices will be available in those remote systems using this Matter bridge. As usual, there are caveats. There are only certain products or certain device types that are supported by Matter bridge. So again, you can check the link on the description. The reason I don't want to mention any particular device is because that is something that Sonoff is working on at the moment. There are always updates. As the Matter support gets extended with new functionalities, they try to follow that with a couple of months delay. So the limitation that I might mention today might not be a limitation in a couple of months down the line. So that's one more option. So again, you can use the Home Bridge to sync to Apple HomeKit, but then you can use the Matter bridge if you, let's say you have Android phone, and then you can sync those devices up to your Google Home. And again, if you just want to like simple control, like turn the lights on or open the garage door, which are simple functions enough that are already supported in Matter, then maybe you can sync those few devices to your Google Home, and then you have a couple of buttons on Google Home, and then you can control those from your Google device. And again, you don't need VPN or anything like that, because that Matter bridge integration will take care of that. And besides everything that I talked about now, you still probably going to have a let's say separate EV-Link word as well, where all your Wi-Fi devices are going to be visible and controllable, and you can still create like cloud automation or cloud scenes that can control them. But using all this integration that I mentioned, some of these devices will also be available on your iHost. And of course, you have the option for voice control, because we have seen it in the past that you can leave your EV-Link account, let's say, to Google Home, and you can synchronize all the devices in EV-Link to Google, and then use or Google or Alexa, and then you can use voice control. Or that Matter bridge integration that I just mentioned previously would pretty much afford the same functionality, because at the end, those devices will end up being visible in your Alexa or Google Home application. And once they are visible, you can use voice control. Again, the difference is that which devices are visible. So, which devices are visible in EV-Link and which devices are visible in the iHost. And there will be devices that will be visible in both of them. But I'm really hoping that I managed to just explain all these. And I do understand that it's not it's not simple. It is actually fairly complicated to understand all these distinctions, but at least it is nicely documented, and Sonoff keeps these documents up to date as and when new versions are released to the iHost or the EV-Link application or the actual devices as well. So they tend to extend the support. So the visibility of these devices at some point would probably going to be fairly uniform across the EV-Link app and the iHost. So you don't have to think about, when you are trying to make a purchase decision, oh, am I buying this for the EV-Link? Is it going to be working only in the EV-Link, or can I use it on the iHost? Can I use it for all the functionality, and etc.? There is one more thing which is not mentioned in this diagram, because I think it's fairly easy. It's fairly new, and I only mentioned it in my latest video for the iHost firmware update. There is a new functionality which is available in the NS Panel Pro, which means that the cast screen, so your dashboards that you create in the iHost, can be accessed and controlled using the NS Panel Pro. So up until now, these cast screens, you can access them through your phone or a tablet. So if you put a tablet on your wall, you can do it. But now you can also use the NS Panel Pro. I think it's a small addition, but it is a useful addition, because after all, that is a screen. So that's an interactive, it's an interactive screen on your wall. And now that can, up until this point, it can be only used for the, sort of the EV-Link word. But now through this integration, it is only usable for the iHost word. I'm a little bit conscious about time because I think this video is getting a little bit too long. So here I have a couple of more slides where I just try to summarize everything that I already mentioned before. So here, what are the pros and cons of using the iHost as opposed to using your EV-Link application? Again, I'm trying to focus this video within the solar ecosystem, Sonoff ecosystems. So obviously the local functionality is a big pro, and also the option that you can enhance your privacy and the reliability, because you don't even have to have internet connection. The only reason the iHost uses the internet connection, so you can download information like weather forecast or the firmware update, but other than that it is not using the internet at all. It supports multiple protocols like the Zigbee and the Wi-Fi, and the fact that it's already included in the single device means that you don't have to buy a separate gateway like as you would need to buy in the EV-Link world. I mean, you have to have like an S Pen Pro or another Zigbee hub in order to access Zigbee devices. It is expandable with Docker images. I mentioned all these different Docker images for the integration purposes, but there are some other Docker images as well, like Node-RED or text-to-speech, that sort of stuff that I covered in previous videos. I think it is also affordable if I compare it to competitors. I mean, after all, you are getting a small computer which can do all your smart home stuff, and then of course you are already getting the software support for it. The cons is definitely limited integration, especially if I compare it to Home Assistant. So as I said, this is a Sonoff product. It is pretty much geared to work with Sonoff systems. So you won't be able to, control your LG TV or, access your, Tesla car information that you probably going to be able to do in, let's say, Home Assistant. Although it is very easy to start with the iHost, if you want to enhance or if you want to benefit from all the functionality that I mentioned before, well, you have to do a fair amount of like configuration and setup. I wouldn't say this is difficult, but it's definitely not out of the box. There are some very good tutorials how to do that, but you definitely have to do some work. I mentioned in the video that for all the integration there are always caveats what devices it support, but this is definitely something that is being extended every single time. So with every new firmware we get support for more devices, more functionalities. So it feels like that this is still an ever evolving product, which means that it is somewhat difficult to plan ahead or plan for a for a specific setup, because you might plan with something, but then 2 months down the line you could have done it in a different way because you just have more support for more devices, so you just have more choices. It could be a little bit frustrating, but unfortunately this is the word we have to live with if we are using this product. And finally, I wanted to recommend a couple of scenarios where I think maybe iHost is the best option for you. So first of all, if you are a privacy first user and you want to make sure that you have a local system, this is not the only local system that you can search from the market. But again, if you are thinking about a Sonoff ecosystem and you want to do something local, then iHost is for you. I mentioned about all these integrations, and for example, in the EV-Link integration, you might say that why this is local if I need to use the EV-Link integration. In my understanding, this EV-Link integration is used in order to, let's say, discover the devices, but once they are discovered, you don't really need that integration anymore. So it is definitely an option for you if you are privacy concerned, that you set up your iHost with full internet access, so you can do your software update and you can do all your integration with all your devices, but then you can really disconnect it from the internet and still be able to access all the devices and run everything locally, because, well, after all, this is a local controller, so it does not require internet connection. And also it takes me to the second option. I did get some comments in the past where, some of you live in areas where the internet connection is not reliable. Maybe you are using a mobile connection. So definitely that's one option for you, because you don't have to rely on the fact that, messages are being sent back and forth between the cloud. And if you don't happen to have an internet connection, maybe your automation or your scenarios are not going to get triggered. So here everything is local, so that's definitely going to work. I think if you are a DIY, an intermediate DIY enthusiast, then you would also like this iHost because, as I said, these different Docker images and integration stuff that you can do in the Node-RED really opens up your options, what you can do. And especially if you are, not really comfortable with hardware, you buy this kit, you just definitely, you connect it to power and network and you're ready to go. In terms of the hardware setup, you already set up, so the rest of it is just software and you can start playing around with and explore all the additional functionality this device provides out of the box. And in terms of size, this is probably more suitable for small and mid-sized smart homes where you have, let's say, a fairly limited set of automation requirements and you don't need a complex integration with a lot of other third-party products and vendors. And finally, the scenarios where you would probably want to stay away from iHost if you have a large-scale integration or a really large scenarios. So definitely this device has its limitations in terms of hardware, but also in the integration as well. So in these cases, I would probably look somewhere else. If you are heavily cloud dependent, because this is after all a Sonoff product which works best in the Sonoff ecosystems, yeah, you have a limitations what third-party devices that you can control, and also how easily you can access this device if you are not at home. So for those reasons, I probably just say that this is the iHost is not the best choice for these implementations. If you want to do a lot of voice control, I did mention that in specific cases, so with Apple and the Home Bridge and the Matter Bridge integration, you can bring a lot of devices over to these third-party voice systems. Maybe not all of them you would be able to do, but again, I would probably look at your requirements and all these lists, what is supported by the iHost and the various integration, because you might find that some of the devices are not visible in your voice control applications like Google Home Alexa or Apple HomeKit, and you won't be able to control them. So that's one thing that you have to be aware of. I mentioned previously that setting up the iHost is fairly easy, but again, all the configuration with all the integration that you need to set up, you definitely need to spend some additional time to it. So if you expect everything to work out of the box, then you are probably going to be disappointed. So I would be wary of choosing iHost in these situations. And final words, because I think this video is getting quite long already. I think this is still, a really good product. I really like the mix of these, out-of-the-box solutions and all the integrations that you can add on with additional, knowledge and research. I don't mind the fact that there is an ever-evolving functionality. New stuff are being added all the time. I definitely love the new functionalities. Probably you can argue that some of these functionalities should have been there right from the beginning. After all, this is a 2-year product now. But that's the beauty of it for me. It's different kind of stuff. I can always explore some new stuff. And as I said, I think it is an affordable solution, and it's definitely a nice welcome to the, up until this point, cloud-only Sonoff offering. And finally, let me show you the page which I mentioned so many times in the video. So I find this by Googling iHost add-ons. So this is definitely, this is specifically talks about the iHost add-ons, and it has also the diagram that I showed you here in the middle of the video. But most importantly, there it has this list. For example, the iHost supported Zigbee and LAN controllable Wi-Fi devices. So these are, in the Wi-Fi section, these are the devices that you have in the EV-Link application, and you can bring them over to the iHost using the EV-Link Docker image or the EV-Link integration. So I think this is important to look at, and then just make sure that the devices that you have or the devices that you are planning to purchase are in this list. Otherwise you won't be able to control them in the iHost. Secondly, there is another list which says what are the Zigbee devices, Sonoff Zigbee devices that the iHost iHost supports. And again, based on my experience, every new Zigbee device that gets released gets added to the iHost almost immediately as well. But again, there could be some older devices that are not supported here. I am pretty sure that we can spend hours and hours going into specific scenarios, special things that you might have with, set of devices, set of requirements, whether you have iPhones or Android. But I hope that with this probably going to be more than half an hour video, I was able to give you a good overview of what this system or what the iHost can do and what it cannot do, or what is not ideally designed to do. And that's hopefully going to make your decisions easy, whether you want to choose the iHost or whether you should stay with the EV-Link application and also only using the cloud and the Wi-Fi controllable devices. If you do make a decision that you are going to pick the iHost, there is going to be an affiliated link down in the video description. But I think that will be all for today. Thanks for watching, and hopefully see you in the next video.